History was made at the Oscars this time, and every Indian and every Indian woman in particular cheered on. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. We're focusing today on the big win by Guneet Monga and Kartiki Gonsalves for The Elephant Whisperers. A charming, charming documentary shot for which the two women were able to get on stage on behalf of India and hold up that much, much cherished trophy. On the program today, we'll be meeting with both of them, the women behind this historic win, but we'll also be speaking about the female gaze. One of the comments that Guneet made in the aftermath of that win was that two women from India have done this, and indeed they have, even though just about 5% of those behind the camera are women. That's an important juxtaposition for you to remember as we introduce our very special guest today. Let's bring them up now on the screen. Guneet and Kartiki are with us. Massive, massive congratulations to both of you. So proud of you. You make all Indians proud, but you also make all women proud. And I want to gender this moment because, Guneet, I think one of the first things you said or you wrote in your Instagram post was, two women from India have done this. And the reason that it's so extraordinary is also, there it is, two women did this, I'm still shivering, is also because of the massive gap in the gaze statistically that is allowed to women vis-a-vis men. So Guneet, let's start with you. Talk a little bit about why that statement, two women from India did this.
Thank you, Barkha. We are so happy to be here and continuing the celebrations. Yes, I think it's really, really important. It's a huge deal that it is two women. It is India's first female director, producer. There's a lot of firsts here, and it is also Kartiki's first debut film. It is just so spectacular to go all the way to the highest awards in our industry. The first time our country has won for an Indian production, considering the stats are so against us, that only under less than 5% women are directors, and here we are amongst that. This is being the first film ever to be able to create history. I mean, this goes down in history, so it's definitely a moment to celebrate, and it's definitely to double down to each other.
Yeah, I'm just staggered by that figure. That less than 5% of people behind the camera are women. It is shocking, and I hope that with this win, this is some sort of inflection point for change to come. Kartiki, I mean, what a way to debut! Absolutely fabulous. And I think a lot of our audience would be interested in knowing the little details. You spent what, more than 6 years, sort of developing an intimate relationship with Raghu, the elephant calf, who's now, I don't know what he should be called, a young adult or an adult. Uh, that kind of commitment, Kartiki, where does it come from? I mean, to devote more than 6 years of your life to a single project. I want to understand a little bit about what that meant for you as you're, living your life.
It actually goes back to my earlier days. I grew up in the Nilgiris, and I was actually driving on my way back from Ooty to Bangalore to pack my things up, and that's when I came across Bowman and Raghu. They were walking by the side of the road, and that's when I saw this really young vulnerable calf, and it was really special at that point because I'd always seen extremely large elephants with their mahouts, but I'd never seen such young calf. And I pulled over my car and I jumped out and I went and joined them, and we went onto the river for a bath. And here you had this tiny little calf run in full speed into the river and started splashing around. And at that point, I really noticed that Bowman had this very, very special bond with Raghu. And I think that sort of really hit me inside as to what this young little calf was doing with a human being. Because ideally, Raghu should have been with his mother back out in the wild. And that sort of got me thinking about uh, looking deeper into the subject. And that's when I realized that the Asian elephants are endangered, and we have only about 35,000 to 40,000 of them left. And I think that's what's led me to the whole thing, that Raghu's mother was electrocuted as she and her herd had wandered into this nearby village in search of food and water. And that was during this this drought that was in the space at the time. So I just wanted people to really understand elephants on a whole deeper level, and to get to protect the and yeah, I was hoping that this would get them to help protect the landscape, but not just the landscape, also understand elephants and help protect them. And uh, I think it's really important that people can protect something once they know more about species. And I think that's how this entire documentary came into being. It started out as a very personal journey, and it's here we are, 6.5 years almost into this, and I didn't ever think it was going to be this long when I first began this journey.
What was the toughest thing, Kartiki, over the last few years? Despite, I think what you've said is the stunning beauty of your surroundings, which you said can even stump the most sort of, trained visual eye. There's also attachments that, movie makers, I mean, Guneet knows this, we know this as journalists, we can attach to the people that we tell stories of. Sometimes we feel we owe them something that we can't actually deliver. Sometimes we feel guilt. I mean, we come back with all kinds of complicated feelings. I'm just wondering what that process was like for you.
When I initially started this, it was extremely personal bond, and that sort of graduated over time, and I became really close to Raghu, to Bowman, to Belly, and then to Amu. So I think it was actually a beautiful 6 years of my life. I wouldn't take anything away from that. In fact, the hardest thing was actually wrapping up this documentary and moving on with my life. So I think that was the hardest part, and I knew that the bonds that I created with Bowman and Belly and Raghu and Amu were going to last a lifetime. In fact, I was so delighted to see them yesterday when we were up in Bombay. That was just such a special moment because I finally felt that they were able to hold the trophy, and that was just so special to me in so many ways, that the trophy was home with the people it belongs to, and it's their story that actually went out and touched so many people. And there are going to be more calves, sadly, because I think elephants are losing their space, and I think that's the entire process of this. And I'm just really happy that the documentary has gone out and has been able to touch so many people. But I
Yeah.
think when you're shooting something like this specific documentary, you're on the ground every single day for so many years, and I think that's what's really hard, is to try and separate and be there and just document it, but also not get so emotionally involved. But that's also really difficult, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
when they actually separated Raghu, it was so hard for everybody. Our entire crew was in tears because it was such a hard moment for everybody, watching this little elephant calf
Yeah.
grow up. So I think in many ways they'll always be embedded into my life in a very deep, profound way. And it's
Yeah.
and I think that's the beauty of documentary storytelling. You get attached to your subjects, you are a part of their lives, and it's
Yeah.
going to continue that way for the rest of your life.
And I think you made a very perceptive point that sometimes the most disorienting thing is actually to come back to the rest of your life because you've got so used to that being your life. Now, Guneet, there's been enormous focus on your having manifested this Oscar. A lot of chatter about it. But I think what's important for the audience to know is today you're Guneet Monga, this celebrated movie maker, this celebrated producer. But let's talk about that time in your life when you didn't have money to make ends meet, when you were writing letters to randomly famous people saying, hello, send me to the Oscars. Your film had been nominated. You didn't have money. You came from a modest sort of economic background. You then wrote to the President of India. It's an amazing story, and I want you to share it.
Yes, it was back in 2010. 2009 is when I lost both my parents. 2008 and 9 in 6 months, I lost both my parents, and pretty much being the only child, I just came to Bombay, stayed with friends, lock, stock, barrel, and started life to figure out on how to be a producer. And I picked up a job in Balaji. I was working at Balaji as supervising producer on a film called Once Upon a Time in Mumbai. And I had helped produce, I had produced student film called Kavi, a USC student film, and it won the student Oscar and was nominated for the best Oscar in the fiction short category. That news came to us for 2010 Oscars to attend, and I was just like, whoa, it'll be a huge opportunity. I'd love to go attend it. I'd love to go experience it because it's, I think, everyone's dream being part of this industry. And yeah, I didn't know how to figure it out, or even to get a US visa was so overwhelming and daunting. You need like a big bank balance to apply for a US visa, and I had nothing. And I just started writing emails. I wrote emails to every famous person I had heard of: Richard
Hmm.
Branson, Ratan Tata, just anyone that I just knew was famous. And I would find their email IDs, their PR email IDs, their EA,
Hmm.
and just send out emails saying, I'm the pride of India. I would love you to support. And if possible, you can send me to US to attend the Oscars. And it was a big deal for me, and I think it still is. And yeah, and I was out there, and I wrote to all kinds of airlines. And I remember writing to British Airways, and they were like, if you're ever nominated for a BAFTA, please write to us. i I didn't know enough. I was just writing to everyone. And then I wrote to the president, Honorable Mrs. Pratibha Patil, and I heard back, and we were called to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and that's where I met more ministers, and a conversation with the Science and Technology Minister then, Mr. Prithviraj Chauhan, invited me to his house. We met there, and he said, let me just do a screening of this 15 minutes short film in our house, and I'd love to celebrate you. And he'd invited many more ministers in Delhi, and that's where I started the conversation saying, I'd love an opportunity to attend. And he called up Air India, I think Mr. Jadhav, the MD then for Air
Yeah.
India. And yeah, and then got the flights, got tickets, got everything sorted, and the government of India supported it through and through to make it happen.
Yeah, but listening to you, one has to sort of underline, and like I say this to young journalists as well all the time, that telling the story and having the craft to tell the story is one part of it. The other part of it is just the sheer amount of doggedness, determination, staying the course, not giving up, the loneliness of it all. I want you to talk about, you and Kartiki make it look easy, but it's anything but easy. And you must have had really tough years, Guneet. Like, I think, as you said, somewhere else, 5,000 रुपए का किराया दे के घर में रहते थे, नहीं थे पैसे. But it's not just about पैसा. It's also about people not being willing to bet on you always.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a power of asking, I feel like when you ask and freely ask, I build my whole career on just being able to ask and open doors and push through doors, and something that you truly, truly believe in. I truly, truly believe in the film, and like Kartiki said, that it is such a long drawn. We are in long format. It's such a long drawn out process that to be fascinated by something, to show up every morning on working on something for a long 5 6 years, you have to be deeply passionate. And when you are deeply passionate, the ask for it comes from a very genuine space. The ask from it comes from a very noble place, like, please watch this. It'll be worth your time. I'm not going to take your time for granted. And a lot of people did support, a lot of people did not. So celebrating all the support that we got, even on the journey of Elephant Whisperers, we got so much support from the South Asian community there in US, from Priyanka Chopra, Carl Penn. We had Chef Vikas Khanna just open up their, relationships, contacts for us, from Deepak Chopra to Salman Rushdie to so many people celebrating and tweeting and talking about us. It all adds up. Doing a campaign is hard, of course, getting there. And this time we were with Netflix, so the film is, of course, very easily available globally, and is being loved globally. So, you know I just
Yeah,
feel like when you do something and you're passionate about something, just ask, and not focus on the people who don't support, but focus, double down on the
yeah,
people who support, because one person introduces you to five people, and those five introduce you to five more, and caravan
yeah.
बनता चला जाता है.
Kartiki, let's talk a little bit about the female gaze. I think Guneet opened by saying how few women movie makers there still are who have the autonomy and the access to telling the story. Stories in India continue to be told mostly by men. Is the gaze different? We've all written reams on the male gaze and how it looks at women and even men in a certain patriarchal way. When you bring your gaze, you're also conditioned in a way, and maybe this filter did not apply to this particular project. But as movie makers, I want to ask both of you about the female gaze.
I think Since this is my debut film, I think I faced it more when I've been a natural history photographer, and actually been out in in the field, because my background is social documentary and natural history. So I have definitely felt it in the past, and the thing is, I think it's something that at one point we know it exists, but at the same time we need to move on with our lives and also push it aside and actually go out and achieve what you want to achieve. Because if we procrastinate and think about, oh, there are these things that we cannot do, then I don't think it's actually going to get us anywhere. Because I did face a whole lot of it, in fact, over the past years, just by uh, being in wildlife, being a woman. And I think that's why I'm here today doing my own thing, because I just felt that that was the best way to go ahead with it. And I think beyond that, I think in the specific time, the reason why I actually made this movie is because there are just so many stories of animals being killed and species dying out. And I just wanted this positive story that highlights the beauty of man and animal working together to come into the forefront. And I think when that's there, I think it just really pushes everything else out of the picture. Because here
Yeah.
we are this time. Oh, I think the world is just honestly being crushed all around us. There's so much negativity and there's so many things that are sad happening around us. And here we had this beautiful positive story right in front of us, and it there was so much beauty where we were at. And
Yeah.
I think we need to
Yeah.
focus on things that connect us rather than things that divide us.
I, I,
And
I agree. We have to grab the
we
moments
have
where
to
we
grab
can.
everything we
Yeah.
have, because we do have a younger generation out there. We have young girls who are looking at this torn apart world. And it's not just women. We have people all across the world who are being torn apart in so many ways. And over here, we I just wanted to show the coexistence, to really bring out the fact that we all sleep under the same sun, the same moon, the same stars, the things that connect us. So I just really wanted to focus on coexistence and a way to
Yeah.
move forward into the future.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I want to also bring out the mutual respect, cooperation, and other ways that we can help save the planet. And I think the Elephant Whisperers, this is the very backbone of it. And
Absolutely.
also
Absolutely.
transcend it across national borders. Here we had this tiny little story of an indigenous couple in the heart of South India, but it transcended borders, went across to people all across the world. We
Yeah.
had beautiful fan art coming in from all across the world of all ages, and beautiful emails coming in,
Yeah.
understanding elephants on a whole different level. And not just elephants, because elephants is something that we have here, but it also can be translated into humans just sharing space with other animals, that in whatever place they might be in,
And
any.
it's certainly a parable for our times when, even seismic tremors literally now every 1 month remind you of what's actually happening to our planet and what we have done to it. Guneet, Michelle Yeoh had a comment on stage saying, "Don't let anyone tell you that you, as a woman, that you're past your prime." You've sometimes had to contend with the opposite kinds of ageism. You've walked into rooms where, in the past at least, nobody would dare to do it. Now you haven't been taken seriously because, oh, you're too young. Why should we listen to you? Uh, Looking at your hurdles, gender, age, not having resources and access to begin with, what has been the toughest? What has been the biggest hurdle to cross?
Um, I think the huge imposter syndrome. I think the biggest hurdle is that we ourselves put us through. There are not moments that I don't feel like maybe I'm not good enough. I mean, I've had people tell me post lunchbox that, oh, it's all a fluke. You're a fluke.
Hmm.
And you're like, yeah, maybe. And also, the business of producing is very, very hard. You're either respected if you come with money, or or it's a very, the I mean, I feel producing is a craft. I feel very dearly about it. It's also an art. It's also a craft of putting the content together, taking it far, making sure that it travels. And I can also only add up in retrospective now, but doing it every film at a time, it is disillusioning. It is hard. It is, you're running in fog, in thick fog, hoping for something to click. But all that effort adds up. Um, and I think the low times have been hard. The self doubt has been hard. um, Sometimes lack of resources have been hard. I mean, even with and you picked up Kavi, the story. I mean, it was not just about, I was not hustling for myself alone. I was hustling for our first AD and our the kid who was in the film. He Sagar Salunke. He was from the slums, and from passport to, just the basic address bhi nahi tha. Passport kahan banega? Kaise hoga? So it was all three of us, and to be able to get travel, stay, doing
Yeah,
this. I mean, lack of resources have always been a issue, but I think nothing has stopped me. There
yes,
are low times, but there is also a deep sense of faith that we'll be fine.
yeah.
And all we can do is put our effort out there and ask, and somehow, somewhere, magic happens, and it happens too often to not notice and to not be grateful for it.
Absolutely. I do have to ask you before we close, Guneet. We consume content and make content in all kinds of different ways. So I think it was kind of telling that it took somebody on TikTok to point out what then became a global debate. Was Guneet Monga denied the chance deliberately to, or with some kind of, not deliberately, with some kind of subconscious bias to make her comments on the stage? And I know you were upset about that. It was interesting that a TikTok sort of viewer first went big on that story, and the music started playing when you were speaking, and somebody pointed out that right after there were two people of different nationalities who came onto stage, and they spoke for longer and they both spoke. Looking back, do you still feel terrible about that? How did you see that moment?
Uh, it's definitely unfortunate. It came to me as a instant shock, and I was like, "Oh, music is playing." So uh, we at the stage did not realize, we were actually very busy doing our winners walk behind. There's this beautiful winners walk behind, and you have so many cabins and pictures and press conference. So only after a couple of days, even I saw the video, and I realized that the people after us got more time. And since it was before after us, there was no way for me to figure that out, being so busy backstage. Yes, it does feel bad. It does feel like a moment that was, again, it was too much, too sudden, too quickly. It was, of course, disappointing and a bit of a shock. But I just feel like 2010, I was up there sitting on the fifth floor, hoping that somebody someday ground floor per बैठेंगे. uh, and then 2019 period end of sentence happened, and a win happened, and a win of my film that Sikh Entertainment had produced. I had co-produced with Oakwood School in US. I was an executive producer on period end of sentence, and even then I was sitting on the fifth floor, and I thought that one day I've now come here, but the win was too overpowering and too nice to not feel like I was not on the ground floor. With Elephant Whispers, I not only got to sit on the ground floor, but I got to go up on the stage. And how epic is that? And the minute I was on stage and that happened, I just think I'll be going back for my speech. So, doubling down on the positive of this. And I think my conversation on anything that I had to say got really amplified digitally everywhere.
Yeah.
Which again, there is a universe out there, and there is things that happen on their own. But even that did not stop me at the orchestra level. I did say, even when the music started playing, it did not get telecast, but I did say to everybody sitting on the ground floor, which was all the other nominees and winners and all, Eva DuVernay, Riz Ahmed, Spielberg, all the actors, everybody sitting there, I was like, this is India's first film for an Indian film, and two women did it, and I ran back. So I still said it. And this tweet, oh my god, I wrote with no specs. I had so much like stress. Clearly the English is wrong, but then I'm a human. You
Yeah.
know, this win and run has me like I am like constantly in my sleep getting like tweet that's gone viral with bad English. But then no specs, trying to do it was too
Yeah.
much. It was literally everything
Yeah.
everywhere all at
Yeah.
once.
And as you said, you're going to go back and make that speech for the next win.
Yes.
Thank you, Guneet and Kartiki, for creating a work of
Well
beauty, for showing that women can do it, for showing that women and men do not have to take no for an answer, for showing that if you do manifest what you want, but then also go after it with a hunter's appetite to get it, it will be yours. Thank you again, and many congratulations from all of us. You make us proud. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barkha. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.